Welcome to Guitar Books, the podcast. My name is Joe McMurray. Today, I'm going to be talking about Roots in Blues Fingerstyle Guitar Explorations by Steve James. This is a hybrid repertoire method book for learning to play fingerstyle and bottleneck blues. This book is suitable for late beginner to advanced fingerstyle players, but it is definitely best for intermediate players. I would definitely not recommend this book for complete beginners. It starts out too hard for inexperienced fingerstyle players. The book offers some technical advice as well as fun historical anecdotes and quotes. So before I talk about this more, I want to tell you about my books. I just released these a few months ago. I have Fingerstyle Blues Guitar, an in-depth study of the 12-bar blues in the key of E major. This is book 1 and book 2. These are both books that show you how to play the 12-bar blues in E using a monotonic bass to maximize your melodic freedom. They quickly get you up and running. Hopefully by the end of chapter 2, maybe chapter 3, you're able to improvise and make up your own blues, have your own jam session. So I hope you'll check these out, and I'll talk about them more at the end of the video. But these are available as paperback copies or ebooks through Amazon. Also, my first book, Arranging for Fingerstyle Guitar, is available as an ebook only. This shows you how to arrange a very simple melody in hundreds of different ways, all within the umbrella of fingerstyle guitar. Really useful book. Check it out. Now, back to Roots in Blues Fingerstyle Guitar Explorations. Now, there are a bunch of fingerstyle blues books on the market, and I would generally not recommend this book over some of the others. On the positive side of things, this book excels in its material that's focused on open tunings and bottleneck slide. If you watch the included videos, you'll see that the author is an incredible bottleneck slide player, and that is reflected in those chapters. On the other hand, I do not like multiple things about this book. One, the difficulty progression isn't very smooth. The book starts out with some difficult, and by difficult I mean late beginner, intermediate tunes, and then the difficulty varies from tune to tune. Part of this is because the open tuning arrangements, which start around the middle of the book, are a bit easier to play. Number 2, there are not a lot of exercises. There are some, but this is more of a repertoire book with some analysis and technical advice in the text. 3, I'm not a big fan of the way that Acoustic Guitar Magazine lays out their books. They don't integrate the text in playing examples. So instead of text that prepares you for an example, then more text, then the next example, they usually have the text in a big block, and then that text will refer you to the examples which are together in another block. It just requires more jumping back and forth for the reader. It's not the end of the world, but it's definitely not my favorite way of laying things out. So moving on, late beginner fingerstyle players could use this book as a supplement to a traditional method book. So something like a general fingerstyle method like Alfred's Beginning Fingerstyle Guitar, or a more focused method like Bruce Emery's Travis-style Guitar from Scratch. That book shows you, it really focuses in on playing Travis-style or using an alternating bass, which will be very useful for playing much of the country blues repertoire. Anyway, a book like that will give you, whether it's a traditional method book or a focused one like Bruce Emery's, they'll give you a lot more exercises that gradually build up your skills, rather than something like this that kind of puts you in the deep end rather quickly. So Roots in Blues Fingerstyle Guitar Explorations provides both treble clef and tablature for each arrangement. Neither fretting hand nor picking hand fingering is provided in the music, but it is sometimes mentioned in the separate text, so you need to read that text. You can usually tell which notes should be played with your thumb by looking at the treble clef. Bass notes generally have down stems. Regardless, the skill of choosing sensible fingering is extremely important to becoming a better fingerstyle player, and you will need to look elsewhere to further develop that skill. The videos demonstrating the examples are available online. These are great. For me, it was especially helpful while working through the bottleneck slide chapter. So finally, this book was published in 2014 by Steve James, the author, and it was produced by String Letter Media in association with Acoustic Guitar Magazine. So before we go, I'm going to go through this book, and I'm going to actually talk about each chapter a bit, and I'll play a bunch of the examples, so you get a feel for what you're going to be playing and the difficulty level and things like that. So here we go. So at the very beginning, we've got an introduction from the author, notation guide, and then there's a really cool chapter on gear, so blues guitars. So there's some history about blues guitars. A lot of this music was developed and played and first recorded in the early 1900s, and so there's a section talking about ladder-braced guitars versus X-braced guitars and their tonal differences, sonic differences, things like that. So I really enjoyed this section, just information on guitars for playing fingerstyle blues. And then we get into the first chapter with actual playing examples. This is the rule of thumb on page 14. So there's a little bit of information, and then he has an example showing you how to play with an alternating or Travis style bass line. So this jumps right in. We're going from an E to an A7 to a B7 and back to an E. So here we go. So fairly simple if you've played fingerstyle guitar before, but if you haven't, that might be difficult. That's why I recommend starting with another book. But we're going to jump right into example 2. This is called Little Hammer. It's based on the traditional tune 9-Pound Hammer. This is a fun tune. I like the arrangement. It's definitely not super easy. It's got some syncopation, it's got some quarter step bends and hammer-ons. So I'm going to play it for you, and you can decide whether this is, this might be the right book for you. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. There you go. Moving on to the next page, there's example 3. This is called Texas Shorty. This is an 8-bar slow blues in the Texas style, so like Lightnin' Hopkins. This one is very different. It does not have an alternating bass. At times it has no bass. At times it's a monotonic bass, but it's a fun tune, very different from the previous one, so here we go. 1, 2, 3. So that's a fun one to play. It's got a lot of slides and grace notes, things like that. It's got a great sound. So moving on to the next page, I really like this page. He has the same tune, which is called Crow Jane, and he's arranged it in 2 ways. Once with an alternating or Travis style bass line, and then once with a monotonic bass line. These are kind of the 2 most common ways of playing bass lines underneath your melodies that you'll find in blues playing. So I really love this because it shows you how one way might be a little easier than the other and kind of the sonic differences, so you can decide for yourself how you might want to play. So the first one, example 4, has the alternating bass. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now here's the example 5, the version with a monotonic bass line. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if you do like the version with the monotonic bass, I think they're both great. I like the version with the alternating bass a lot, but the monotonic bass line to me is easier to play with, and my fingerstyle blues books focus on that monotonic bass because really it is an easier way to play. But here we go. The next chapter is called The Mold Was Broke, 3 songs by 3 Roots guitar originals, and this chapter just has some more tunes that are kind of par for the course of what I've already shown you, but they're nice. And then we get to the next chapter on page 24. This is called The Toolbox. So there's a lot of good information in this chapter. He has lots of inversions. So on page 25, he has different A7 inversions, so you can play it here, 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 or here. So if you're playing with, say, an alternating bass line, so it allows you to move around on the fretboard. They're really useful. So after that, he has a bunch of tunes arranged that use these inversions. None of them are anything that I'd want to add to my repertoire, but they're great learning tunes. Finally, on page 32, we get to the chapter called Yes, We're Open. This is where the book starts to really excel. So this chapter is focused on open tunings, Vastapal, or open D. And there's also Spanish tuning, which is open G. So in open D, you're going to tune to D, A, D, F sharp, A, D. So those are all notes from a D major chord. So it'll take me a second to tune here. Okay, so in open D or Vastapal tuning, we've got an open D chord, no fingers down. We have a G chord, and we have an A7 chord. On page 34, we have our first example utilizing this Vastapal open D tuning. This is called Green Corn. It's a fun tune. We'll revisit this in the bottleneck slide section, and I'll play it for you a second time using the slide. But here's the basic arrangement. I'll play 4 lines of this. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. It's a fun tune, and we'll come back to that with the slide in a little bit. Now on page 36, we have a tune called Stewball, same tuning. I'm just going to play a line of this to show you moving up the fretboard in this open D Vastapal tuning. And he does have a version of this with the slide later in the book too. I'm not going to play that one, but just so you know, he does revisit this tune too. 1, 2, 3, 4. Going to keep going forward. Now we're going to get to page 38. We're going to look at Spanish tuning, which is just an open D tuning. So we're going to tune to D, G, D, G, B, D. So in order to play in that tuning, instead of switching back and forth, retuning this guitar multiple times, I have another guitar already in Spanish or open G tuning. Alright, here we go. Moving from my Martin 00 12 fretter, we're going to my 1973 Martin D35S. This is in open G tuning. There's your open G chord. There's your C chord. And there's your D7. So the first example here, this is example 5 on page 39. This is a tune from Etta Baker called Lost John. This is the North Carolina Piedmont style. So this has got a cool groove to it. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. fun tune to play, not too hard, especially at this point in the book. So there are a few more tunes in open G tuning, Spanish tuning, but I'm going to move on to the next chapter. This is called Doing the Slide, and this is where we will bring out our slide for bottleneck playing. So I'm going to switch back to my double O. So this chapter, as I mentioned in the introduction, the author is a great slide player, bottleneck slide player. So he's got some great information about muting strings and just general information about holding the slide, things like that, how to make a slide, some old bottleneck lore. The first examples were in this Vastapal open D tuning. He's just got a couple examples to get you used to using the slide on your pinky here, and you can mute behind it. And this is really hard for me. These guitars are not set up for slide tuning. The action's really low, so it's harder than it should be because I really can't press down very hard without hitting the fret. So really, ideally, you would have a guitar with higher action. But I'm going to do my best. I'm not a bottleneck slide player, but I want to show you these examples. So the first examples go like this. You're just going from an E to an F sharp. So this is the second to the third. Let's see. You can go from the flat third to the third. Let's see. You can go from the flat fifth to the fifth, and from the flat seven to the root. He's got a couple more examples that are actually kind of challenging. So I'm going to skip over several examples, and I'm going to go right to Green Corn that we played earlier using the bottlenecks. This time we're going to use the bottleneck slide. So since I've played a couple things since then, here is my original rendition of Green Corn. Well, his rendition, my performance of it. Okay, and now here it is with the slide. I'll just do 2 lines this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a fun tune to play without the slide or with the slide. But the slide definitely gives it some extra character. So moving forward. Alright, we're going to move on to Spanish tuning again, open G. So I'm going to switch guitars, and we're going to go to page 57. This is a tune called Yo-Yo Blues. It's example 10. It's in the style of Atlanta guitarist Curly Weaver. So I really like this one. This one's fun. I love especially from about the middle section. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. So there you have it. Again, I'm not a great bottleneck slide player, but you get a feel for the tune, and I really like that one. It's got that gritty, bluesy feel. All right, there are a few more tunes in that chapter, all in open G tuning, but we're going to move on to the final chapter. This is called Waltz, Breakdown, and the Blues, an American Guitar Story. So this chapter is focused on the tune Spanish Fandango by Henry Worrall. This was written in the 1850s. But you'll hear it, lots of fingerstyle players play it, even guys like Tommy Emmanuel has a rendition of it. But on page 63 has the original arrangement. This is in open G Spanish tuning. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So really pretty tune. It's great for learning your way around open G tuning, but we're going to use that as a jumping off point. After a variation of the original with more of a rolling 6/8 feel, we're going to move on to John Dillashaw's version of this. It's in 4/4 instead of 3/4 time or 6/8 time, depending on if you're looking at example 1A or 1B. But this one, example 2A, John Dillashaw was a Georgia string band leader in the 1920s, and this is a fun version. So I'll play 2 lines for you. 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to look at a bunch of variations. Well, the author has 5 variations of this tune, this arrangement. I love when books do this. They show you the original version and then they show you a bunch of variations so that if you wanted to perform it, if you just play the original chorus, it'll last like 20 seconds. So if you have a bunch of variations, you can extend your performance and keep it interesting. If you just repeat the chorus over and over, it'll get really boring for your listeners and for yourself. But if you have some new ways to play it, to mix it up each time, it'll keep it interesting and exciting. So he does a really good job of showing you multiple different ways to play this. So here's the first one. This is example 2B on page 66. That one's a fun version, really bluesy feel. So yeah, and then he has 4 more variations. So let me set this down. Finally, at the end of the book, there's one more tune. It's Sam McGee's Knoxville Blues. Anyway, so that's the end of the book, and hopefully at this point, hearing me talk about it and listening to the songs, or a bunch of them, hopefully you'll be able to make an educated decision on whether this is the right book for you. But I do enjoy it. There are a bunch of books on the market, and there are several others that have similar types of repertoire that I feel like have better difficulty graduation. Like each tune gets a little bit more difficult, which is nice. But this one has really nice material on open tunings and bottleneck slide. So check it out. Before I let you go, I want to tell you just a little bit more about my books, Fingerstyle Blues Guitar, an in-depth study of the 12-bar blues in the key of E major, Book 1 and Book 2. Again, these are available for purchase through Amazon. You can get them as paperbacks or ebooks. And so just imagine that you are ripping a blues guitar solo with a band. You're on stage. Now imagine that you were just sitting on your front porch. Wouldn't you like to be able to just improvise and make up your own blues solo? Just all by yourself on an acoustic guitar? Well, you definitely can. There are many ways to get there, but I feel like I've laid out a really nice path to getting there using a monotonic bass line. So I'll show you how that works. And I need to retune my guitar back to standard tuning real quick. Alright, back in standard tuning. So the book starts off showing you how to play through the 12-bar blues in E using a monotonic bass line. This kind of thing when you go to the A chord, when you go to the B7. Chapter 2 focuses on introducing the notes of the E minor blues scale, one string at a time, very gradually. The difficulty progression is very smooth, and there's lots of exercises so that you get you have time to build up these skills, these finger skills. So stuff like this, simple things with simple quarter note, half note, whole note rhythms. And then using the second string, using the first and second strings combined, using the third string, then the first 3 strings combined, the fourth string, and then all 4 strings combined. Then in chapter 3, I introduced syncopation, so it starts to get much more interesting. Then in chapter 4, We look at stylistic techniques, things like quarter note bends, slides, hammer-ons, pull-offs, grace notes, vibrato. It really add a lot to your sound. So imagine taking a simple line like this, that now add a quarter step bend. It sounds so much more bluesy and soulful. All of these techniques really elevate your playing. In Chapter 5, we look at adding some bass lines, some bassline movement underneath the melody. Usually when the melody has something going on, you just keep it simple in the bass line. When the melody stops, like the end of a vocal phrase or a lyrical phrase, you can do something more interesting in the bass line. Sometimes that's just one note, like at the end of a measure, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So maybe you've got something like this. So it starts to sound really good. I show you how to play full-on bass lines, like things like that. You can play a chorus of just bass line stuff to kind of mix it up and give yourself a break from playing melodies on the high strings. We look at little chord inversions. They're really fun to use. And then we look at alternating melody with bass line ideas or chord inversions, kind of a back and forth thing. Then in Book 2 starts out right where Book 1 leaves off. So Book 2 starts out at Chapter 8, and it shows you how to use different scales, like the Dorian scale, which adds in the notes F sharp, C sharp, I show you how to use minor third to major third rolls. They sound great, very authentic, that classic bluesy sound. Yeah, through the rest of the book, there's just Book 2 has a lot of the icing on the cake. I show you how to play with triplet rhythms. I show you how to use a quick 4 chord in bar 2. It's super easy. We look at playing in 6/8 time. And then I actually show you how to play in other keys, keys like A and G, and then we look at using an alternating bass line, so that Travis-style bass line, because while we spent this whole book, both books, playing with a monotonic bass, it's still fun to play with an alternating bass line, and you can use everything you've learned in the books, you can use it with an alternating bass line. So I show you how to do that. So those are my books. So those are my books, Fingerstyle Blues Guitar. I hope you'll check them out. And also, don't forget about Arranging for Fingerstyle Guitar. Another great book if you want to learn how to take a melody and give it all that fingerstyle stuff underneath the melody, or above the melody. So check it out. Ebook, this is available through the link in the show description below. So thank you for hanging out with me today. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to my channel. I've got lots more content coming out on the horizon, and yeah, if you haven't checked out my music, I have several albums available on all the streaming services. I've got, on those albums, I've got lots of fingerstyle guitar, ukulele, fingerstyle ukulele, and piano. There's even a banjo track on my first album, so check it all out. I'll see you next time. Thanks.